we never planned this stuff. It just all kind of flows out.
Yeah, that worked out really well.
What we say to each other cannot be divisive.
Gosh, I just think that when we get so focused on walking the line and just miss so much of God's creativity.
We only created the Odd Show to have this conversation.
Right.
We're gonna say some bad things about stuff. If you're
Not bad things like,
if you're a huge Toby Mac
turn it off now.
For people who are struggling with why would a God of the universe care about me individually, you are his favorite. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is The Odd Show. Let's get right into it. Here's your hosts, Bruce Bugano and Thomas Hogan.
Hey, welcome to The Odd Show. So we actually had an episode recorded last week when we were there. Anyway, before I get into that, I'm Bruce. Thomas is here. And so, like I said, we had an episode recorded that we were going to post about accountability, and then I think our wives were going to get online and do an episode. But then this weekend happened.
Oh my gosh.
We just felt like, everybody's got something to say about it. Everybody's kind of taken, I saw some articles almost immediately that came out by various popular bloggers, a couple of.
Yeah, everybody said something about it.
Everybody has said something about it. It's been all over my news feed. I've said some stuff. I actually sat down to try and write a blog about it and to get it out Monday morning, which I've only been posting articles every other week. So this was kind of going to be one that I posted interim, in between those 2 weeks. And I just couldn't get my thoughts out in a way that I thought reflected the gravity of it, because I still have a lot of things that I'm wrestling with and trying to figure out. And then Thomas messaged me and was just like, "Hey, should we do an episode?" And I was like, "Yep, probably a good idea, and we can do it. Post it Thursday morning like we normally do, and it'll give us some time to kind of reflect back. It'll, by the time this airs in a couple days, it will have been almost a week. And as it stands right now, it's been 4 days?
Yeah, 4 days.
So we're just gonna have
we're posting this for this week.
Yeah, Thursday. So okay. So if you're, so we're going to talk about Charlottesville, Virginia, and if you're not, if for some reason you don't have internet or the news or any social media or friends,
or you're in another country where people are dying daily,
right? Yeah, and you don't know what's going on. About a week, on Friday afternoon, I think it was the 10th or 11th. There was you want to set it up, actually, Thomas?
I mean, there's no other way to say it. There was a huge rally planned. It's been planned. Actually, it was canceled, but there was a huge rally that was planned, canceled, planned again, and finally started to go through on Friday night. They did their vigil, their walkthrough, and then is that right? No, Thursday night they did the vigil walkthrough, and then Friday morning they started their march. This white supremacist / alt-right / that side of the spectrum, unite the right rally, right? They wanted to unite the right, even though most of the right did not show up. that side of the right did, and during that rally, things got a little heated between protesters and anti-protesters.
I would say counter-protesters. I mean,
sure,
because they were protesting.
There was a lot of words I was gonna. Yeah. Right. So things got heated. Things got out of hand very quickly, far more out of hand than the police were able to contain, and violence ensued. And as a result of multiple layers of violence from the white supremacist camp, someone was killed.
Yeah, a lady was killed.
And
I think,
and multiple people were injured.
right, and I think some state troopers died. I think, or
Some state troopers died in a helicopter en route to the scene.
right, yeah. So it's a mess, and
Huge mess. America, well, Charlottesville, Virginia, where this took place, huge mess.
right. And I would say that that's an indication of the mess that we're in as a country.
Well, not every state. Yes, I agree, but not every state has crazy
sure.
racists in it that are willing to gather. I mean, Virginia has a track record. That's all I'm going to say.
Right.
I don't want to get. It's going to seem. I know it's going to seem like you're on the side of this that's very concerned with this. I'm concerned with it probably for a different reason,
Right.
and it might to the listener it might sound like I'm being flippant, but Virginia has a history,
Right.
a
But
national history.
And this whole thing, the guys
Rejecting what the rest of the country wants.
right, yeah. Yeah. So I think the guys that this, well, maybe not the guys, but the whole thing, part of the whole thing that this revolved around was the removal of a statue of Robert E. Lee. They're protesting that removal, and then obviously I think that was just used kind of as a foundation for what the message that they wanted to get out, which was
did you cut out?
maybe anyway, they were using the removal of the statue of Robert E. Lee as kind of a platform for getting their actual message out, which is we hate everybody who's not white. So yeah, so
Right.
like
They hate that version of whatever it is that whatever they are, whatever they're calling themselves. I'm going to give it to them. Whatever they call themselves, that's what they are. And that version of whatever they are is horrible.
Right.
and wrong and evil, and they were trying to promote their point of view or their perspective that tearing down the statue. I say tearing down, that taking down the statue and putting it in a well-lit museum somewhere is somehow
right, an affront to their
unfounded.
values.
Right, an affront to their values. Never mind the values of everyone else in America who
Right.
thinks I don't mind that existing. I just don't want it to be in my face every day on the way to school.
Right. So so you said that we have two different reasons for being upset about it, or whatever.
Right.
I'm mad on a lot of different levels, and I'm frustrated on even more levels than I'm mad. I don't even I almost don't even know where to start. Maybe I'll start with this. I watched.
Well, so this is as far as the Odd Show is concerned. This is not a scripted show or not a planned out show. So this is discussion. So say how you feel, and we'll just respond.
Right. Yeah. So I'll start with. So one of the big topics has been one of the big arguments on the white supremacist, fascist, neo-Nazi, whatever on that side has been, we had permits, we were here to peaceably assemble, and the BLM and the other group is Antifa, which I'm not actually sure what Antifa is. I heard that term a couple times, and I was like,
it's anti-fascist.
Okay, that makes sense.
Does it though?
But no, I mean as far as the name, anti.
It doesn't.
No, it doesn't. But I mean Antifa, like.
Oh, and what it stands for.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Well, I mean,
that's what
just
it stands
like
for.
Nazi stands for German Nationalist.
Right. Yeah.
National
obviously.
Socialist. So same idea.
Yeah. So
just shorten your name,
their thing
make
is
it not as intimidating, I guess.
Right. We're here to be to peaceably assemble, and their argument is that violence was initiated by the others on the counter protest side, and BLM and Antifa and such. And then I watched which I don't think that that's actually the way it happened, but perspective on the ground is I mean, like there's different perspectives on the ground. So, it's the Han Solo who
Yeah, I
shot
think
first.
it depends on
Like,
what side of the street you're standing on. I think.
right. So, but then I watched a video by Vice News, which is I don't know a lot about them. I think you know more about Vice News than I do.
Oh yeah, yeah. I love Vice News. More Vice News.
Right. They seem to be pretty
Less real news that no one considers real anymore,
right.
And more Vice News.
Right. So Vice News seems to be pretty fair in like how they like at least the questions that they ask.
Well, I would say it is agendaless and unbiased. Now,
right. So to me, they seem like
seep in no matter what.
Right. Sure, but they seem like a genuine, like investigative reporting organization.
Right.
They're investigating this one thing. They're investigative
I don't know if you know this.
journalists.
Gavin used to be a part of that.
Yeah, didn't he start it? Did you say he started it, or he was?
I think one of the co-founders or
yeah, whatever
initiators or whatever they're called.
So I watched the video today, and the leader of the Unite the Right movement, or the guy who's orchestrated the Unite the Right movement, while she was talking to him, one, he was armed with 6 different weapons. Like at the end of the video, at the end of their news broadcast, they're back in his hotel room in North Carolina because, of course, he's not going to stay in Virginia, right? But he's back in North Carolina in his hotel room, and he's just like, "You want to see how I came prepared?" And he was like, "Here's my, AR-15. Here's my I got an AK-47 in the bag. Sometimes when you got a lot of guns, you forget what you're carrying." And at this point, I'm like, "You're a moron."
Right, but we haven't even gotten to it yet. You're already like it's already there. Like
right. So then he pulls out 3 more handguns that he has on his side in the small of his back and on his ankle.
Would you say that he was ready? What he was ready for a race war? Would you say that isn't accurate?
I would say that he was not there to peaceably assemble. Yeah,
I'm sure there was like maybe 10 or 20 people that did come there to peaceably assemble. I don't know what the number is.
But and then he like
so that's the other thing. I haven't seen a panoramic shot. I've only seen the up close shot of Nazis and Confederate people.
Right. So
I don't know. They say thousands of people were there. I've only seen like pictures of 10 to 20.
Shows them congregating around like the statue and stuff from an aerial shot, and there's a good number of people there. So then he flippantly throws a knife on the bed. He's like, "Oh yeah, I got a knife too." And then so she was like, "So why? Like why you had all these weapons? What was your intention?" And he was essentially said, I was prepared to kill people if the need arose. And he's like, but I kind of count this as a success because none of our guys died and none of our guys had to unjustly kill anyone. And she was like, well, there was a lady that was killed by that car that plowed through the crowd. And he was like, right. And she said, do you think that was just? And his response was, well, they were assaulting his car and he was getting out of there as quickly as he could through the people, and then realized he couldn't and backed up and she died. Oh, well. And I was just like, you're not just an idiot. You're an evil idiot.
No, I would say that it gives people a pass when you call them stupid or ignorant or idiots. Right, I think that these people are evil.
Yep. And
I think it's very difficult to find people that won't say that racists are wrong. I think you have a ton of people, because I can't even talk about this stuff without the commentary, right? You're going to get you're going to find very few people that say racism is okay. Everybody says racism is not okay.
Right.
And the few people that say racism is good and racism is right, and because some races are better than others, nobody likes those people.
Right.
If you say it out loud in a room full of people, everyone's going to say, that's the jerk in this room, no matter who else is in the room.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I think that it's just interesting. We are so polarized politically that it's hard to get to that point. You have to shuffle past layers and layers of virtue. I don't want to say that word. You have to shuffle past layers and layers of people with an agenda just to get to that point. Do we agree that racism is bad? Yes, racism is bad. Is the Confederate flag a great thing in America? No. It is an interesting thing to a lot of people. It is a heritage thing to some people. But to all racists, it is a point of racism. It's a point of making the point that we're racist. Right. It's a point of pride to all racists. Now, those people, because I have family members and people I know that are on that heritage side. I'm from mid-Missouri, the backwoods, hills, lakes, Ozarks, that, mountain stuff. Mountains, hills, really. And so I have people on that side, and I'm not bashing them or going against. I'm saying I know it stands for a symbol of racism for those people. Like, just like the swastika is a symbol of racist hate. Right. Not a symbol of identity. Like, I don't think there's anyone who, half those people aren't German. The few that are, I'm like, wow, I'm impressed they found a German that's willing to say that they're a Nazi. But most of those people aren't German. And have no connection really to Nazism. Right.
Which that makes me so angry anyway. Like, that pisses me off to no end that you're going to bring a Nazi flag. Like, there was an entire world war centered around demolishing that as an ideology. And you're going to bring it to America?
We have a we have a big, we have a thing in our office, in my office where I work, and it just has like kind of things that people say that make a lot of sense, or things that people say that are crazy. And they kind of just flesh it out on this giant whiteboard, right? And one of the things is you can do that, but you shouldn't.
Right.
Like, that's the general rule in my area of responsibility where I work. One of the things that is you can do that, but you shouldn't. And you can do anything, almost anything in America. There's almost nothing you can't say.
Right.
And there's a pretty limited area of things you can't do. So you can have a Nazi flag or a Confederate flag or say racist, crazy things. You can, but should you? No, if you want people to like you or take you seriously, and that gets to the issue of where my problems lie, but we'll get into that whenever we get to my side. So finish your thing about how you feel about it.
No, so like I was writing. My whole thing is, I don't even know, man. I don't even know how I feel anymore, just because I'm so frustrated and I'm so mad. And like, I feel so inundated with everything. So like, I read an article that I just don't understand how people can't see logic. Like you said, they weren't even removing the statue. They weren't demolishing it. They were removing it to a well-lit museum display. And there's a difference between monumentalizing these oppressors or people that stood for oppression and displaying it in a museum as a point of history to be remembered and learned from. And I just think about like every country that I've been to that while I was in the military that I was deployed to that at one point had been an oppressed regime, like had been under the thumb of an oppressed regime, with the exception of Kyrgyzstan. Kyrgyzstan kept up their statues of Lenin as points of history. One statue of Lenin as a point of history in their capital city. I think it sits outside of their museum. I can't remember, but every other oppressive regime, the statues come down immediately. Like, the people are all too quick to remove these statues. And at the end of the day, even if they wanted to keep them in a museum somewhere. Like this was the 2 decades that we were under the thumb of Saddam Hussein, or 3 decades or whatever it was that we were under the thumb of Saddam Hussein. Here's one of his statues. They couldn't because they destroy them. And for us, most of those statues were erected like in the early 1900s, like 30 or 40 years after the war ended. People
Right.
got together and were like, hey,
and
let's
that's- I think
memorialize
that's-
them.
Yeah, and that's key because the South lost the Civil War. They did not win ideological landscape of their areas of influence.
Right.
Which is the point that any considerate, intellectually honest person of color is going to immediately address, which is the right starting place, I think, is that this is a psychological win for Southern white supremacist side or pride. Sorry,
right.
Like
And
that's,
so
it's an ideological win.
Right, and that's the thing. Is,
whether they actually lost the war or not, it's ideologically I can still implement influence and authority in the setting of Mississippi, Georgia, South Carolina, Virginia, Florida, wherever these statues exist, right? That I can have intellectual, ideological influence over the culture and the people surrounding me, even though I'm outnumbered, 4-1 or 8-1 or whatever the number is now of people that disagree with slavery. I can still influence those people, and that's really the ideological thing going on.
I'm going to use that stuff to continue to press you down, and you see it in Jim Crow laws. You see it in
but it's not an outright oppression. I mean, although I would say following the Civil War it was. But now in today's society, it's not an outright oppression; it's an outright intimidation.
Right, and that's the point I'm getting to, is that these statues were erected in the midst of, okay, so we can't own you anymore, but you better know that you're not equal to us. So they're going to erect them 40 years after.
Name every street after.
And then they stay up for 150 years. You know what I'm saying? Like 150.
Yeah.
Like so. Yeah. 100 years goes by.
America is interesting.
And now we're like, hey, maybe, just maybe, we shouldn't have these statues of people that encourage the oppression of an entire race out in the middle of our main street. Maybe we move them to museums.
Yeah, the town square is not a place for that.
Maybe we move them to museums, and people are like, oh, that seems reasonable, except for this one part of society that's like, no, we'd like also to kill all black people. And the Jews, they haven't done anything to us in a long time. We'd also like to kill them.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And so here's a hard thing. I sympathize with the people that say free speech, national history, it's if the state didn't want it that bad, they could get rid of it. I sympathize with those people. I do, and I can at least see their point of view, even though I think it's a bad point of view. I can at least see where they're coming from. They're saying, if we tear down one racist or one slave owner's statue or historical plantation home or whatever, where do we stop? Do we stop at George Washington, who owned slaves? Do we remove all? Do we remove all his? So I see the natural. I see the way they're trying to categorize it, and I sympathize with that. On the other hand, when you lose, in my opinion, this is an American thing. I'm super American in this sense. When you lose a war, you lose a war.
Right.
You just when your side loses the war, you're like, oh, the consequence of losing that war is I don't have to erect a statue. Instead, I get to say bad things about you in history books.
I don't get to say, like you don't get to say. I mean, you can write whatever books you want. Unfortunately,
now understood. The South did not. They lost the Civil War as in control of the United States of America, or control of their own state by a larger federal mandate. That they lost that war.
Right.
They did not lose the ideological war for a good 90 to 120 years later. Right?
Evidently, still in 2017. That's.
But you say But you say still, and I just got to think about the entire population of America.
Oh no.
There are, you know what I mean? Like they're
Right.
they're not. It's not like the South will rise again. You know,
No.
these 100,000 people that exist among us will never rise again. Now they will. Their ugly heads will pop up
Right.
occasionally. You're going to see their I don't want to disparage these people by making fun of their appearance. You're going to see their faces,
Right.
eventually.
And even that guy said at the end of the interview, she was like, so this lady dies and it's a just death, and he was like, there will be more deaths. I can promise you that there will be more. We will bring. He said, and she. What did
But
he say?
their intent.
No,
their
but
intent is to start a race war.
right, and he said it. He was like, blacks are killing each other in droves from coast to coast. So we just want to fill the market demand. I was just like,
Right. So
unbelievable.
right. So there was, yeah, it's crazy town. There were Nazi propaganda films in the Nazi era, not today's era, that has
Right.
some Nazis in it. When there was a whole country of Nazis, let's say that.
Right.
Let's say there was a whole country of people that supported the rise of the
Nazi
National
Party.
Socialist Party
That
and
made
then the
propaganda.
conquering of Europe, right?
Right.
And there were Nazi propaganda films and Nazi propaganda radio broadcasts, and there were also eventually, as Nazism rose and took over Germany and started heading west, there were anti-Nazi propaganda. They were propaganda, but they were anti-Nazi. And the idea, from Winston Churchill's point of view, is that you can't have people sitting on the fence in the face of evil, right? You can't have somebody kind of like, well, Nazis are not all bad. They're just mostly bad, right?
Right.
You need to have, these are evil, wrong, do not belong in society people. And I would say I agree with that. Nazis are wrong, do not belong in our society people. Now, they are in our society, so what do we do about that? We ignore them. If you're a business owner, I am all for you firing that person for breaching everything that it means to be a part of that business. And that's the smart thing to do.
Right.
You confront them with ideas, not with punches to the face like everybody keeps saying. Although I secretly want to punch a Nazi. In reality, in my heart, I want to punch a Nazi, right? But in reality, when I see what Nazism actually is today, I just think that's so pitiable. Like,
Right.
whenever you see, like, I don't know how often you see protesters, there's only like one or two of them,
Yeah.
and you're like, oh, nobody likes you. Nobody supports your cause. That's depressing.
Yeah.
Or like whenever somebody starts a Kickstarter and they make like $4, right? You're like,
We had
nobody cares.
I think it might have been the weekend that
Nobody
you were here.
cares what.
We had that protest down by the 8th Street Market, and it was like for green.
Right.
And there was like, as big as this area is, as far as progressives go, and people that care about the environment and whatnot, there it was like this green protest thing, clean energy protest, and I think there was like 50 people down there, and there's hundreds of people at the 8th Street Market. I'm just like, aw, that's cute.
Yeah. And so for me, I know somebody from the outside of this conversation hearing us speak is going to immediately go to, I just said that you should confront wrong ideas, bad people, evil in its face. You should confront them, and then at the same time, I'm saying you don't have to punch them in the face or be violent against them.
But you said you should fire them.
I totally think that. Yeah, you should fire them, and you should, if you find out that they own a business or they run a lawn service, or there's a date matching website for cousins. I don't know, whatever. I'm sorry. I said I wasn't going to disparage them. And that's not right. No, I'm sorry. I apologize. Before that you don't support that, right? Yeah, we don't edit stuff out. So if I offended eHarmony or whoever is doing that sort of thing, that's just the way it goes. No, I think that what you do in this situation. So people ask, because I've asked the question a few times, and I've seen the question asked continually on different platforms. What you do if you're not going to confront them with violence, because they are violent, inciting people. Whether they're violent people, whether it's reactionary or whatever, they are inciting violence by hate, by speech, by mannerism, by everything they're doing. They're inciting violence, right?
Right.
And no one's arguing. I don't think you're going to find anybody that doesn't argue that. I think they may not be the first stick swung, right?
Right.
They may not be the first bottle of pee or rock
spray
thrown,
or
or whatever. They may not be, but they are the ones provoking it and inciting it. Now, however, how you confront that is you have a similar rally somewhere else in town, and you get the news helicopter to go up, do the bird's eye view of the 1,000 white supremacists on 11th Street and the 70,000 we hate you people because you're about hate. Like you get and you get that picture solidly in people's minds, so you have a comparison to say, oh yeah, these people they matter in the sense that they do have a voice in America. We've given them a voice in America, but now we've given them a megaphone. Where originally they had a voice, now the media and this spotlight is giving them a megaphone, and they're getting spread out as all Republicans, all of the right wing, all of Trump supporters, which I want to remind people, 63 million people in America, less than people voted for Hillary Clinton, but 63 million people in America voted for Trump. And the association, even though they haven't, some people have come out and said it, but most people wouldn't come out and say it. The association is 63 million people are racist and want a white America, which I know is not the case.
No,
I know. I didn't vote for Trump because I didn't vote for nobody, because nobody impresses me anymore.
Same
they're all unimpressive to me.
If I couldn't vote my conscience, I didn't vote.
Yeah. And so, which you could say what you want about that. I don't care. But 63 million people voted for Trump, and they're not all racist.
Right.
Some of them are. I guarantee you some of them are.
Well, I mean, those ones that take the Make America Great Again and turn it into their cry, there are those that are racist that will do that. And that's why people are like, oh, look, Make America Great Again. They must all be racist because that's what Trump said. So if you voted for Trump, you believe that.
But there's some intellectual dishonesty there, because you're not willing to go into the discussion about what about America do you think is great, and if they say and because refusing to ask that question and jumping straight to the conclusion, well, you obviously think the great thing about America is subjugation of black people, women not voting, and what else? Those are the two main ones, and
illegal immigrants being deported.
Well, that's always happened, though. That happens in all cities across the world.
No, but we need to do more.
Illegal immigrants have always been deported. That's why they're called illegal immigrants.
Evidently not, because that's why we need to take care of it.
Yeah, there's going to find a time in American history where immigrants were not sent away. And you're not going to find a time in America when immigrants weren't brought in. So it's just a continual part.
They
were
sent away
a different discussion.
92.
Columbus sailed the ocean blue? What?
No, I said they were not sent away in 1492.
Yeah, and look what happened. It did not.
It did not go well.
That did not go well for the guys who did not kick out the illegals. Anyway, that's besides the point. No, that's instead of asking the question, what do you mean by Make America Great Again? And what they mean is prosperity, opportunity, values, traditional entered values.
Right.
That's what, I mean, and if you talk to any real Trump supporter, which I have a few in my family, that's obviously what they mean. But refusing to ask that question and jumping to the immediate conclusion that Make America Great Again means make America
white.
1849 again. Like
Right.
make America under the rule of racist, slave owning, patriarchal, wig wearing with wooden teeth. Like that's not the America that we want to be great. That's not the version of America we want with 13 colonies.
Right.
We want 50 states that are bustling and making money. And so there's this cognitive dissonance that pulls you away from that honest discussion of what the heck do you mean by make America great again, and goes straight for the jugular of, you obviously want to subjugate me. You obviously want to limit in my ability and all this and that. And it's a difficult argument to maintain. And part of, like, the longer your frustration is you don't know what to say about it. My frustration is there's no platform where you can say anything that's going to be meaningful.
Right.
Any side, because they're so polarized.
Well, and that's the thing. It's not about not knowing what to say. It's about it mattering. So someone said, someone posted something. Sarah mentioned that she saw.
Oh, hey, 1 second. Sorry.
All right.
I did not know people were coming over.
Oh.
I'll be right back. Hey. Sorry about that.
So Sarah pointed out that she saw this thing posted, and someone said, think about the Holocaust. What you would do during the Holocaust is or what you're doing right now is how you would react to the Holocaust or something. And while I get that sentiment, like, if you're just going to sit back and pretend that nothing's going on, then during the Holocaust you do that. Except that during the Holocaust, during World War II, there were very specific things that you could do. If you lived in Germany or Austria or Poland, you could help. You could be Schindler from Schindler's List and save Jews. If you're an American, you could fight. There's the opportunity,
which is also the beginning of Liam Neeson's hero complex.
Right. Yes. But like, there were very definitive things that you could do, and in this situation, I feel like, what do I do in Idaho? Me writing a blog, like, I have friends that are like, just keep saying it, keep the conversation going. And I get it, but like, me writing a blog, does it really matter? Because there's thousands of blogs. There's already thousands of articles out there that are just approaching this from 8 different sides. Everybody's got an opinion on Facebook and Twitter, and the conversations I'm having with my friends, my small group of friends here, do I need to suit up and go hang out with the anti-protest or, the counter protesters, or do I like, so I'm just in this place where I'm like, I don't know what to do. Like, if this was World War II and we were fighting actual Nazis, I could very easily say, okay, I enlist. I'm going to go fight real Nazis, or I'm going to go move and do humanitarian aid for Jews that have, moved to England, and do humanitarian aid for Jews that have escaped the Holocaust. Or I'm going to go and sneak Jews out of those places. So there's all these different things. We take up collections for that, So when we get in this conversation of, my frustration lies in that. So what do I do then? Like, do I just keep writing stuff? Do we do this podcast episode? Do I go be a part of these protests? I don't know. So
yeah, well, I just think you confront these people, because there is a platform in America called free speech, called right to press, and or right to assembly, freedom of speech, freedom of the press, and right to assembly. You confront these ideas that are bad and evil and gangrenous. I don't know what's another good word. Cancerous, destructive to the fabric of what it means to be America. And you confront them and you say, you do not believe that all races are created equal. Okay, you're wrong. And I can prove you're wrong because the founding document in which we all agree is the thing that is America.
That you're using to say what you're saying.
Right. It actually starts out, the Declaration of Independence starts out with this statement that you're wrong. You don't have to get to the words. I can just say, that idea is wrong. Right? And do you have a right to say whatever you want to say? Yeah. But should you? No, not really. No one likes you. No one likes what you have to say. And the people that do like what you have to say, I don't have a problem with. Like, here's the thing. I can unite with counter-protesters that say these people are evil. They should not be a part of what defines America. Completely agree with that. Right. And then where I'd start to disagree, where I have to I can hold hands with anybody who says Nazis are evil. But when the next words out of your mouth are, these neo-Nazis are evil and we should throw Molotovs at them, or we should probably hit them with a bat, that's whenever I can't hold your hand anymore. So if what you're trying to say is, I can totally be on your side if your side is Nazis are evil. They do not have a place in the fabric of America.
Right.
Okay, we're on the same team. Right. And then you overstep the boundary of what it means to be that fabric. And so it's so easy to fall into this agenda-driven political landscape. And I don't want to have nothing to do with it. Not that I don't have political opinions. I have lots. I have too many political opinions. But my political opinions mean nothing compared to my agenda. And my agenda is love. My agenda is the love of God that's burning inside, reaching out to other people to embrace them. Right. That's my agenda. And so when I start pushing other agendas, get gut checked, right? I immediately get mentally, emotionally, physically unable to continue, right? Because those agendas don't matter. And that's why I couldn't get caught up in this whole election cycle and all the crazy people saying crazy things on I don't say both sides. I don't like that. I really wish, I mean, I don't think that our president is the best at articulating ideas. Let's put it that way. I don't think that, I think that he is not the best at expressing, and whether it's his speechwriters or him, I think they're both guilty of not being able to express a clear idea, right?
Maybe not give him a Twitter account.
Yeah, you give him like a fake Twitter like they did with Creed, right? You give him, and he's the only one who can see it and he thinks it's genius or whatever, right? But it's beyond that. We can't do that now. So he's out there just tweeting away and saying whatever pops in his head and doing press conferences and saying whatever pops in his head. But regardless of what the president says, I can say as an individual, don't like Nazis. Never have, never will. Nothing Nazis do is ever going to get me to be like, you know what? That's a good idea. I was watching a guy talk about he was an organizer, I think, in inner city Chicago, and he was I don't know if he was a pastor or a community organizer, maybe both. But he was talking to a group, a journalist, right? And this journalist said, you've decided to meet with Trump and Trump's people to kind of talk about gang violence and what can be done as a community to support. Do you feel like that aligns with your values? And this is what the guy said, and where, I can hold hands with you until I can't hold hands with you anymore. He said this. He said, if Adolf Hitler came up from the grave and told me he has a plan and a way to implement ideas that are going to keep kids from dying in the streets of Chicago and get jobs back in this community and get people out of poverty, I'll unite with Adolf Hitler. And that's when I have to stop holding your hand. That's immediately. The second I'm with you all the way until you start saying things that are like, well, if they got some good ideas, I can get on board. No, I don't care how many good ideas you have. Right. If you hate people, your good ideas don't matter. And I'm saying that for the agenda.
Chances are your ideas are going to involve killing other people that are killing the people you don't want to be killed.
Right. And if my agenda truly is love, if like the Bible says, if you say you love God,
or if you say you love your brother,
but hate your brother.
Oh, but
yeah. If you say if you say you love God but hate your brother, then you don't really love God. Like that's my agenda all the time. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're a radical on the far end of extremist alt-right person, or if you're on the other side of the I don't even want to say names because it gets crazy. If you're on the other side of so you got Mother Jones. I don't know if you know who Mother Jones is.
No.
So if you're on the other side of Mother Jones, the other side of Mother Jones, where you're literally crying out for the blood of these people, because they're evil, and I'm okay with you calling them evil and confronting them in the arena of ideas, because I think you win. If you confront them in the arena of ideas, you win every time. I don't care if you're inarticulate, if you stutter, if you can't formulate your speech good enough to get the point across. You will win in the arena of ideas, even if you present those ideas poorly, because their ideas are evil and they're wrong, right? But anytime you start bringing violence into it, and you say, the automatic go-to is, but they're violent. They want to destroy us and they want to take us out. No, they want to start a race war, and it's evident. It's not evident, it's stated. They want to ignite the race war that divides America. So the problem with that is, I don't know any white people that are going to attack black people in the public or in private. And not only do I not know them, I know that there's so few people that are willing to do that. I would argue that the cops are not willing to do that in inner cities for good reason. But they're not willing. They may do it single-handedly as individual racist cops that exist. But to go to war with another race or people who support that race, it's not America. It's not something you can do. You couldn't do it now. You could do it. You do it 200 years ago easily. That's a different state. You couldn't do it. You could almost do it 100 years ago. What's that?
We did do it.
Yeah, we did. And we won that. The right people won that. Not the white people. The right people.
The right with an R, and not the right wing. The correct people.
Well, I mean, yeah. Back then it was the right. I mean, it's still the right wing.
Yeah, still. Yeah. Anyway,
this ain't your daddy's Republican Party, that's for sure.
This is not. Excuse me. There was a time that I would have said, because I was military for 20 years, and there was a time that I would have said, like when we're talking about radical Islamic terrorists like ISIS and Al Qaeda, and there was a time that I would have said,
people.
There's no way, there's no diplomatic solution for this. There's no engaging ideas and beating them in that arena. The only way is to destroy the small force that they are. I don't believe that anymore. I just don't think you can kill an ideology with violence. I think that it just reinforces the ideology. If it's a violent ideology, I think it reinforces the ideology. Now, I know, like, you can look back to World War II, and they did, but obviously the ideology itself stayed. It's still present.
It persists.
So, there was a movie. There was a movie at one point. I don't remember what it was called. I'll have to look it up. But basically, the premise of the movie, I think it was based off a book potentially, but the premise of the movie was an experiment that a professor did in California, at a university or a high school or something, and so they did a movie in California, and then they redid it. They recast it in Germany and did a foreign film. But the premise of the movie was the students were like, Germany could never happen again. Nazism could never take hold again. That ideology is so damaging and so destructive. It's just not possible. And so the premise of the movie is the guy, through these little tiny steps, changes their ideology and forms them into this group of people that are unified around the idea of hating the class next door to them for no other reason except that, or the class underneath them or something like that. Like would start out by making them dress the same and having them enter the classroom the same and telling them, hey, the people underneath us in the class, they're physically lower than us, but intellectually they're lower than us. They're in a lower grade than us, and he would make them stop to be disruptive. And by the end of the movie, he had to rein them back because this class was starting to get in fights with this other class, and the whole premise was it's not it potentially like you can't destroy the ideology. The ideology will
Right.
persist as long as there's
I
someone
think, yeah,
willing to push it.
I think we're susceptible to suggestion towards hate. I think so.
Right.
But then how do you counter that? And I would say you live a
Love.
life, a full, yeah. You live a life that says, you know what, hate, not going to work. I'm not going to do it. And that's what I'm saying. I'll hold your hand. If you want me to be on Black Lives Matter side for the sake of saying that Black Lives Matter, which I believe, like that's true. I don't care what other people believe. I believe Black Lives Matter. So if you want me to hold your hand, I'll hold your hand. I'll be getting the same soul with you. I'll march down the same street as you. And the second somebody picks up a bat and throws it at somebody, or
I can't be with you.
attempts to stop somebody else from saying, hey, I disagree, then I can't hold your hand anymore. I'm going to stop walking with you. Or Antifa, which Antifa is a totally different.
I don't know anything about them.
Antifa, yeah. So that's a total, like, to even get into that would take forever. There's a lot of deconstruction involved with what it means to be counter-protest. I don't like what your agenda and what you're putting out there, and being, I will stop you at any cost to because your ideas are so malevolent, or your voice is so repugnant to me. I will stop at nothing to stop you. Which kind of gets into what you're talking about. What would you do to stop the Nazis? I would do anything to stop the Nazis.
Right.
These people, these self-proclaimed Nazis, are not German.
Right.
There's not enough of them to own a. They wouldn't know what to do if they did have a tank. And if they ever purchased a tank, I'm sure the CIA would shut them down immediately. The FBI,
Somebody
and every other,
whatever.
Right, and I'm sure that there are arguments against that, and people that. But the thing is, the more polarized you get, the less I'm likely to hold hands with you. Right.
Right.
I'll stay in the middle with anybody. I'll even lean a little left. If you want me to go a little left on gay marriage, I'll hold your hand. You want me to go a little right on, you know what? You can't tell people who can and can't own guns as long as they're not mentally incapable of owning guns. I'll go a little right with you. You know what I mean?
Right.
But once you get so far right that you say no matter what, nobody can say anything about guns, I can't hold your hand anymore.
Right.
You know? And once you go so far left, like anybody who disagrees with me is a Nazi.
Can't hold your hand.
That's not true. That's not true. Black lives matter. That's true. Black lives do matter. That's true. Anybody who disagrees with me at any point is a Nazi. Nope, that's not true.
Right.
You had me, and then you let me go by going too far on one side. Or you didn't let me go. I let you go. And so that's why I'm saying, if you're a Republican and you showed up at this rally, and the second you started seeing swastikas and Confederate flags, that was the time to let go. Like, okay, guys, I got a thing in another state.
Yeah.
I gotta be in New York. I forgot. I got an appointment. I did not.
I forgot mine back at Never, and I.
Right. And then you jump on Twitter and you say, "Hey, these white people be crazy."
Right.
Like nobody told me it was that kind of white party.
Right.
I thought it was like a. I thought it was a before Labor Day thing.
Yeah. Is that what? Yeah, that makes sense.
See, I'm being flippant with it, but it's it was before Labor Day party. Because I didn't know what kind of white party it was, and when I found out, I left. Right.
Right. And I think it matters that, like, I mean, you say that, but I think it matters that you make that point. I showed up because, I was watching Philip DeFranco, and he was talking.
Philly D.
Yeah, Philly D. And he was talking about the whole Trump thing where people are saying he didn't respond soon enough. And then he came out and was like, oh, look, I made, and then people were like, well, he wasn't very specific. He said there was violence on both sides. And then he came out and said, no, I'm going to condemn white supremacists. And then he came out and said, oh, that wasn't fast enough for you, fake news. And then he retweeted something else. And
and at this point, you're like, wait, how does he's like the guy with the little red dot thing, and the media is the cats, you know?
Yeah.
And he's like, what's over there? And they're like running over there.
So somebody made the point after Philip DeFranco's previous show about, hey, there were people there that were white guys, white people, and they were not there as white supremacists. They were there for this historical thing and cultural thing, and he was like, and someone sent me a video, and the video that they sent him, this guy's walking, and he's like this guy was just there just to support history and you know the Unite the Right, you know, Republican Party and blah blah blah. And then they show video of this guy, and he's just like, the Holocaust was the biggest hoax in the world. Like, there were no Jews that were killed. Jews are ruining this country. And I'm like, what? And he's like,
I hope somebody gets the gif of you saying that, because that's going to be the intro to this video.
and his thing was like, hey, maybe don't use the guy talking about the Jews being killed being fake. Maybe don't use them as your argument for there were regular people there.
And maybe they were. I didn't see them. They didn't get the highlight.
And that's what I'm
they
saying.
Didn't get the highlight reel.
Even
I don't watch football games, right? Because there's a highlight reel. I don't have to watch football games.
Yeah. Can we go back and look at that play? No. Okay.
Yeah. So I don't watch the whole protest. I watch the highlights.
Right. So
like any red-blooded American should.
So his like, hey, you sent me a video to prove that there were regular people there, and the video you sent me was a crazy guy that talked about the Holocaust being a fake. That doesn't. Maybe send me a video of a regular white dude that's just like, I don't know what's going on here. This is crazy.
This is not what I thought.
I'm out.
I walked it. Hey guys, I was actually just walking across the street. I did not know that I got kind of caught up in a crowd thing.
Yeah.
And everybody else had.
I live here, and I was going for ice cream.
I don't know how in the world this happened. What's going on?
So.
Yeah. I get it, man. It's a crazy world right now. I think that, like I said, I'm going to keep pushing my agenda, man. I don't care about other people's agendas. Really, can we my agenda.
Yeah, I was going to say, can we be clear about what your agenda is? Because I think ours are the same.
That love covers a multitude of sins. that God's desires to love you and embrace you and bring you in.
Right. Yeah.
That's it. And anything I can do to get that point across, I'll focus on that. And then any other agenda is lesser than my agenda, in my opinion. I get that that's not everybody's truth or whatever, but I push like that's the only truth worth living for. Right. And I push so far for that I'm against other agendas. You know what I mean? Like, and it's not that I'm against other agendas. I'm not against you having an agenda. You can have all the agenda you want, but my agenda matters to me.
Right.
And so I will push that agenda. And the second your agenda starts chipping away at what the core of my agenda is, the second I'm like, can't hold your hand, bro. Love you with the love of Jesus. But I can't hold your hand here. Like, this is an area where your agenda is going to push my agenda out of the way.
Right. No,
so that's me. Like, that's my perspective. And then I look at what everybody else is doing, though. So I have Christians on both sides of this, right? I have some Christians who are like, well, they're coming for us next. No, they're not. They don't care about you. Like, you're not that special. But I have Chris. Oh, geez, that was probably the wrong thing to say.
Maybe live in a town with a statue of Robert Lee.
Right. Well, I mean, when they go after the statue of the Billy Graham statue, I'll get worried. Until then, I think we're safe. Well, there's a Bible in every hotel in America. Even if you,
we stayed at a hotel. We stayed at a hotel in Coeur d'Alene about a month ago, and there was no Bible in there.
Oh, well, maybe they're gonna win. Maybe I'm wrong.
I had to leave. I was like, I want
You're protesting it. You're like, nope, not gonna do it.
Yep.
Should have left your own Bible. So I bring a spare just in case.
Yeah. I had it on my phone, but that was beside the point because I figured either the Gideons are getting lazy or the other side's winning.
Yeah. I don't know. And that's the thing. Like, I'm not going to get. I'm not going to get in the same lane as people who are throwing Molotov cocktails, swinging bats at people, calling people Nazis just because they disagree. Not going to be on your side. And I'm definitely not going to be on the side that says white people are right and everyone else is wrong.
Right.
or white people run things better than other people, or white people belong here and Catholics don't. Like, once you start saying crazy stuff like that, I'm like, wait, that's not true. Like, that's not true. And then we didn't even get into race, really. I mean, I think we skirted by it. We didn't even get into the racial component of this, other than the white supremacist idea that it's wrong.
Right.
But
so
there's this entire racial undercurrent of this that is hard to tap into, because once somebody's emotion gets tied to their agenda, and then that agenda drives everything they do, because I'm the same way, I'm emotional about this agenda, and it drives everything I do, and it really causes me to ignore some other things. I don't care what you have to say, how much you try to make me hate, you're not going to make a hater out of me, like, you're not going to do it. So I don't care how much you do, what you do to make a hater out of me, you're not going to do it. And to the point that I will ignore what people are saying. I'm like, that guy's there's jibba jabba, something going on over there, and I don't know what he's talking about. So I get it. I get how that works. I think some agendas are bad.
So I've been fortunate enough in the last year and a half that I've been here. One of my good friends, actually co-host of another podcast. Shout out to Positive Filter with Phil Wilkerson and Hillard McMorris. But my buddy Hillard, we had this conversation a few nights ago, and I've been fortunate to have him as a friend, and he was just like, man, whatever guilt people are trying to put on you for being white, don't let them do it, man. Because we're having this conversation. I'm just like, what do I do, man? Like I'm saying what I can. I'm trying to stay engaged. Like, I care about this issue. It matters to me. And one of the things, I think I shared this with you, but growing up, all of the roles that I have filled growing up, tell me that, or society tells me that because of those roles that I should take a certain stance on things. And that's the kind of the direction I was trying to go with the blog. So, like, I'm a white male. So, I grew up in the 80s and early 90s. And there's this kind of this feel that, white males are successful, and we need law, affirmative action. We need these things because automatically, as a white male, you're going to succeed, and you should be proud of that. And you're capable, and you're probably less crime. You probably lean less towards being a criminal than maybe a black person or a Hispanic person. So I was a cop for 20 years, and society says that I should probably hold a view of, when I hear Black Lives Matters, I should automatically respond with, no, Blue Lives Matter, or all lives matter. And so there's that role that I fill. Also, I've written about it on my blog, but I grew up during, like, the reinvigoration of the war on drugs, where Reagan was, like, there were HBO specials about, gang banging in Little Rock, and how the black community was all cracked out in violence, and it was always on the news, and it was always in these specials. And when I was young, 10 years old, I was a victim of a violent crime, at the hands of a black male. And at the time, it fed the narrative that I was being fed, or it supported the narrative that I was being fed, that black men are dangerous. And even though the crime itself was a crime of opportunity, it had nothing to do with my race, nothing to do with my race. And I know that for sure. but what it did was it fed that narrative that that they're violent, and now I had proof. At 10 years old, I had proof. Like, the news is right. They're violent. And I was living in Alaska, so there was this false sense of security. Like, there's a small African American population up there. It's predominantly white. If one person in this small community is violent, obviously they all are. And I remember growing up that there was this idea that, and this is going to sound ridiculous, and it is ridiculous, but there was this idea when I was young that most of the African Americans that lived in Anchorage in the Mountain View area were gang members that were escaping California, fleeing California because they were wanted or another gang wanted them. I remember hearing that story over and over and over. And then I'm an evangelical, so if I'm not right, I'm not right. So there's all these.
Did you say that that's the evangelical stance?
No, like there's this impression that if you're an evangelical, that you're right wing. And evangelical, that you're right wing. I said if you're not right, you're not right. Not if you're not white.
Got
you're
it.
not.
Okay.
So there's
I agree that exists.
Right. So and I don't fill any of those roles. Like, as a prior cop, I lean more towards a Christian a Christian nonviolence view. Like, I'm a Second Amendment guy. I'm like, hey, own guns. They're fun. But I'm wrestling through this thing in my life right now that the gospel and Jesus don't permit killing people. And I'm kind of wrestling through that right now. This nonviolent view, and not pacifism. It's different. That has a lot of baggage. I'm also. There was a point at which, I don't know if you remember, I was going to go to Oakland. I still have a heart for just this bringing justice to these places where injustice has thrived for so long, and undoing that. And I don't know how to do that. As an evangelical, other evangelicals might look at me and be like, nope, you're not an evangelical. You are way too far left. And I'm not that far left. As a victim of a crime perpetrated by a black man, I, like, for a long time I was really angry, and I had to get to a point where I realized, no, it has nothing to do. It's not a race thing, and it's such a false narrative, and it's this broken. Like, I was fed this false narrative, and it was never that I was. I know you never start a sentence with "I'm not racist," but it was never that it was a racism thing. But it was I don't feel empathy for your plight. Like, don't use the race card on me, because my white privilege got me assaulted and hurt. My white privilege didn't allow for that. For all the things that you're saying that I had. I understand the issue now, and the topic revolving, or what the issue revolving around it is. But at the time, I just wasn't empathetic to it. I didn't see, there's this bigger thing. Part of it was because I lived in a very homogenous society, like culture at the time. My neighborhoods were very, very white, middle class. And a big chunk of my young adolescence was in Alaska, and it was predominantly white. And I don't know. I just, like, over time, I'm like, I was fed this narrative that's just not true, and I've been able to, like, fortunately, I think the military helped with it, because it's so diverse. You meet so many different people, and you hear different perspectives.
Right. There's a sense of forced diversity there.
Right, sure. But I wanted to learn, and I've had friends that were gentle with me, and sometimes not gentle with me, but that were honest with me, and I was able to have those conversations over a 20-year period. And Hillard's been one of those voices where he's like, man, there's not, like, don't feed into this idea that you should feel guilty about being white, this white guilt thing or
So I wanted to speak to that specifically because it's a big part of this larger discussion. So white guilt is a thing that people talk about a lot. I want to separate myself from the white side of it.
right.
First of all, I'm not white, so I'm already separated from it. But so I don't feel guilty. There's part of me that's white, and I don't feel guilty about it. But say you're a leader of an organization, right? Say you're a pastor or a business owner or whatever. You carry the weight of every good decision you make and every bad decision you make and every potential decision you make. And the weight of that is called the burden of leadership, right?
Right.
If you're a dad, you're a father, and you have children that are over the age of 10, you carry the weight of every bad decision you made with your kids. It's with you all the time. Now,
Right.
Are you guilty in association with it, or is it a heavy burden that you have to carry alongside moving forward and becoming the better dad you should be? Right? And I think there's two ways to look at it. One, you can be buried by the guilt. I have a couple of friends that have committed suicide over the years, that they were buried under the guilt of their past mistakes.
Right.
Right? Whether they were perceived or actual, it doesn't matter. They were buried under the weight of their past mistakes or their past failures or their inability to succeed in some area.
Right.
So I am all for the cultural burden of slavery, the cultural burden of wrestling with and responding to destroying an entire people group that is the Native American Indian, right?
Right.
Or the Native American indigenous peoples. Let's put it that way. I feel deep compassion for every Muslim, every homosexual, every atheist, every person of anything other than white that has been the subject of white supremacy, white rule, or white privilege. So I feel deep sympathy for that. And I feel that there's a cultural burden that we should all bear for it. And if you're black, you don't have to bear the burden of owning people directly, unless you know somebody in your family did, right?
Right.
But so I get that there's some burden there that's lifted in that context, and I'm okay with a cultural burden. What I'm not okay with is burying people underneath. My agenda is love, right? So I'm not going to bury other people underneath the weight of decisions they didn't make. Also, I'm not going to glorify people for the same reason,
Right.
for decisions they didn't make. So if you are white, I'm not going to allow you to claim victory over the modern world. Whites made the modern world better. No, you did. You had, now, a white person may have, Alexander the Great may have established, a reign of whiteness over the course of European history. I'm not going to allow you to take credit for that. In the same way that if I'm black and I have a natural sports ability, you know what I mean? Or a natural tendency to do something better than some. If I'm a woman and I have a natural tendency to have IQ higher than the average males, right? I'm not going to allow you to say you're better than somebody else just because you're better at something, or
Right.
your genetics have allowed you to have given you an advantage. I'm going to say all men are created equal, and what you do with that equality is up to you.
Right.
You know what I mean? And if you use that equality to better yourself and make yourself a better person and get in lane with how can I love better? How can I appreciate more? How can I enjoy this life that I've been given, regardless of the setbacks that have come along with it? Then I can hold your hand, man. I will get on your side. I don't care what side, I'll get on your side. And then when you start getting on you owe me something because of this, then I'm like, I don't know if I can hold your hand anymore. Because now you're getting out of, I'm doing everything I can to make my life better, and getting into somebody else's life needs to be worse so I can be better. No, that's love doesn't do that.
Right.
Right. And so I'm with your friend, man. There's a cultural weight. I feel it, when I look at the plight of the modern Native American indigenous peoples, of what America what it means to be at the top of the world. You know what I mean? Like we literally are the greatest superpower the world has ever known. And at the same time, at the cost of this entire people, right? It costs the entirety of this people for us to do that. And I wrestle with the weight of, was it worth it? I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I don't know the end of the story. So no, I don't know if it's worth it or not. But I am okay with the cultural weight of that, right? I deal with it. You know, I work through it. I process it, and I say, what can we do to adjust to at least, I want to say alleviate that burden, because I don't think it should be alleviated, to.
You don't think it should be alleviated at any point?
To make right the wrong, right? And so how I get to that for me, I don't know how other people do it, but how I get to that for me, love covers a multitude of sin.
Right.
Like literally all the sin of the world can be covered by true sacrifice, true love and forbearance of others.
Right.
Like that matters. And then I had nothing to do. I did not subjugate anybody myself. I haven't owned a slave. I try to buy consciously, so I don't support, you know, sweatshops in China for the most part as best I can. I don't buy Nikes at full price. I buy them after sale and on Craigslist. You know, like I do what I can to consciously address those things because I feel the cultural weight of them. Right? But I don't feel guilty about being an American. I was born. I don't feel guilty, or I don't feel proud in the sense that I had anything to do with it. You know what I mean? Like I didn't come to America and make something of myself. That guy has something to be proud of. That girl has something to be proud of. Like I was born here, just happened to be lucky enough to be born here, and then live under a cultural milieu, a stew of luck, right? As opposed to my brothers and sisters in foreign lands who are getting killed on a daily basis and starving to death and going through civil war after civil war, as in Sudan and Kosovo and Yugoslavia and Bosnia and Herzegovina. You know, yeah, it goes on and on and on. My brothers and sisters there, that's the struggle. All right, the 1,000 white guys who have Confederate flags and, you know, do horrible things and say the most racist, dumb things anyone's ever heard. That's something to contend with. I agree.
Right.
But is it the struggle? Is it the real struggle of humanity? No. I mean, it's bad, and then we should confront it with better ideas that are true and obvious. We hold these truths to be self-evident, meaning everybody gets this, even if you disagree.
Right.
That's what it means. You know, we hold these truths to be self-evident that all men were endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights. Right? We are created equal under the eyes of the Creator. We are equal.
Right.
And then what you do with that makes you a garbage person, like these, you know, like white supremacists, or a great person, like, you know, Martin Luther King, or Abraham Lincoln, or I don't know, whoever you want to insert name here. Yeah. There's great people that we can respect and have, and then probably have flaws that we don't even know about. And then there are garbage people that their flaws are self-evident. Like you have bad thinking if you think white people are better than other people.
Right. Or if you drive a Dodge Challenger or Charger or whatever it was into a crowd of 80 people. Garbage.
Yeah. I don't mind calling that person a garbage person.
Yep.
I mean, I love them, but they're garbage. I can love garbage.
Yep.
I mean, I have a pretty extensive family of people that I love but don't talk to.
Yeah.
I love, and if they need something, I'm happy to help. But I'm also cautious of their toxicity.
Right. Nope. Agreed. All that, man, that's a lot. I still don't like.
No,
at the end of
if you
no, yeah. At the end of the day, man, I'm still like, I have no idea. I just, I care about it and I want it to matter. And I know we just keep talking about, like, maybe we just keep talking about it. Maybe we keep confronting.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know.
Nazis are evil, man.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, agreed. We could.
And I think that you can end at that, and the more you say, the more you engender one side and make another side angry, and I don't want that. I want to say all agendas other than my agenda are kind of off the table. So
Right.
if I were the president, I would say my agenda is peace and prosperity in America, and that's my agenda.
Right.
And anyone who's not for that agenda, you're against me. Don't care what your agenda is.
Right.
That if your agenda isn't peace and prosperity for America, and I think that it's just bad management principles that he's like worked under the cloak of not having to do that like balance in the
Right.
public.
No,
and,
yeah.
and now
you
he
just
has to, and he's
fire
not doing
people.
it well.
You're fired.
Yeah,
No, yeah.
you can't
no.
fire half of America.
Yeah, right. No, but agreed. My agenda, this love thing that Jesus talked about over and over and over. So, yeah.
So I'm
we
all
could-
for it. Let's stand up and rally against and shout from the rooftops. These people are wrong, and they shouldn't be here, and we don't like them. And take your crap somewhere else. Like keep that in the basement on your blog. you know.
Maybe I'll name this episode "Nazis Are Garbage: a Charlottesville story."
Yeah, sure. Why not?
I don't know. All right, that's a while. Yeah. Okay. So.
Man, yeah, cool.
So that's the Odd Show, guys. We would love to know what you think.
Yeah, we'd love to talk with you as we walk
Yeah.
through these difficult conversations.
Right. Because I am open. I'm open for discussion. If you, I'm going to take the stance that Thomas takes on if you say stupid stuff, I'm just going to ignore what you're we'll have a conversation, but once you start saying crazy, stupid stuff, I'm not going to engage it. I'm just gonna be like, okay, nope, not my agenda, not my thing. Slick, champ, buddy. You're
Well, I
saying,
mean, I don't mind confronting some bad ideas.
no.
That's
I mean,
okay.
I'll confront him, but like once you get
The
to
more
the
you
point of
engage it,
just
the more
crazy,
you make it a real thing. Yeah.
yeah. But I mean, there's a point at which crazy just keeps saying crazy, and they're not hearing it, and like, okay, yeah, we can't have that conversation anymore. Then I guess not because I'm not willing, but because like repeated crazy. I don't know what I'm trying to say.
No point. I agree with that. There's no point. Once you've already stated, like, once you start jumping off the deep end of the Holocaust is not real.
Right. I can't have a conversation with you.
This
It's not that
this conversation doesn't go anywhere normal.
I literally can't have a conversation with you because you're irrational and I mean we talk Cocoa Puffs, but that's not
Right.
productive. Anyway. All right, that's the Odd Show. We'd love to hear what you guys think. We would love to hear all the show notes will have all the things we talked about. I'm gonna have to contact Thomas and figure out what Mother Jones is. Maybe that shouldn't be in the show notes. I don't know.
I don't know. You'll
Anyway,
see.
yeah. Anyway, so that's it. You guys take it easy and stay odd. Thanks for checking out The Odd Show. You can follow Bruce on Twitter at bpags2 and Thomas at BlenderZen. Remember to rate and review us on iTunes and share us with your friends. Until next time, stay odd.